In the wrestling world, the people are represented by two separate but unequally important groups. The wrestlers and bookers, who literally do all the hard work, and the fans, who endlessly nitpick and overanalyze everything they do. These are their stories. Welcome to Raw and Order, the wrestling booking unit, the only wrestling podcast on the planet that didn't get a call from John Laurinaitis telling us we were fired this week. I am your host, Detective Mark Smarks, and I am joined, as always, by my partners in crime fighting. Starting off with me, it's going to be in the dark for a bit, District Attorney Vincent Kayfabe. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm infuriated.
Infuriated.
Are you telling me that the guys at Cultaholic and WrestleMania and all of them got a call from John Laurinaitis this week?
It was budgetary cuts, you know.
So they couldn't even afford the phone call?
Yeah. They just Also joining us from up north, maybe he didn't get fired because they've got better labor laws up there. JLB, what's going on, man?
Got no call. I'm still here. No budget cut excuse for me. However, of course, very, very surprisingly weird, sad news that Bray Wyatt has now been released. I don't know what's going on anymore. I don't know what they're doing. You've had both Braun and Wyatt main event SummerSlam last year for the title, and a year later, goodbye. What's going on? What is this?
Oh my god, what's going on? It's I don't know what to say. I mean, here's the thing though. I'm less angry about this than I was about some of the previous ones. If only because of how much they fucked up the Bray Wyatt Fiend character.
Right.
So, but I'm sure we'll talk a lot about that tonight. It might be our main crime for the night that we'll talk about. But before we get into talking about the crimes, I'd like to thank anyone who comes to the live stream to watch us there. Go ahead and let us know in the comments here if you're here. If you're listening to us on the replay or on the podcast, thank you for giving us some time of your day. But we'd love to get more people involved in the live stream, so you can hop on over to Facebook or YouTube, follow us on either of those, and join us on the live stream. We go live every Sunday night and every Tuesday night at 10:30 Central. So come join us there. You also make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast and follow us on the social media. We'll go over all the social media hooks at the end. They're, in our little bios here, so... But yeah, check us out there. But to start off the show, we always start with mentioning that Raw and Order is part of the Tatnus Co. Podcast Network. So the link is going to be in the show notes and the doobly-doos for tatnusco.com. Head on over to tatnusco.com and check out the other shows on the network. Tell Tatnus that we sent you, and then come back here for some more content later in the week. But we will go ahead and get into the crimes. And like I said before, I think we know what crime is going to be the main crime we're going to talk about today. And that's Bray Wyatt. And like I said, I'm less angry about it than I was about previous ones. If only because this is the one, kind of like with the last round where I was like, I think this might be for the best for him. I do think this is for the best for him. However, the timing of it is so frustrating. And just the way they did it is so frustrating, just in general. But the upside is his 90 days should end on October 30th. And that's 1 week before Full Gear, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Which gives
Full Gear is November 5th, so.
Apparently, Braun and Bray are already in discussions with each other.
I'm calling shenanigans on that report. It's actually my misdemeanor for later. I think that's just Braun trying to keep his name out there.
Oh, could be.
because the report came from Braun doing a tweet like "We'll be together soon, brother" or something like that.
Right.
And I really feel it's Braun realizes that nobody from the overall wrestling scene was angry so much that he got let go. Like, it was him getting let go was more puzzling because I don't see him going anywhere else. You know, I don't see him having success on Impact Wrestling, you know, and going there. I don't see him going to AEW and being their next big thing because I don't think he fits there. And he's, you know,
he was like the perfect WWE mold, really.
he was.
You know what I mean?
He was a WWE wrestler if there's been one, right?
Right.
And ultimately it comes down to, like, I mean, I want to say this in this way. I appreciate the fact that he values himself, right? And so he puts a high value on himself. I appreciate that. Everyone needs to learn to value themselves. You go apply for a job and they give you a job offer, a price, right? Make sure it's worth your value and value yourself. That being said, if your sole resume experience is with one company that fired you, right? And other companies come along, maybe be willing to work a little bit, knowing that the other companies do not have the same budget as prior company. You know, if you used to work for Microsoft and you got let go, and a small mom and pop software company from, you know, California calls you up and says, "Hey, come work for us," you know that mom and pop software company doesn't have the budget that Microsoft has. So you need to understand that and maybe go into it with some good faith from that standpoint. And reports have it that Braun not going into it with so much good faith. He values himself too much. And that's fine, I guess. It just means he won't get any booking because there's no indie out there that can afford to drop 20 grand for a one-off appearance from Braun Strowman, right? I mean, for many of them, 20 grand is their entire budget for the show. You know?
Yeah. Hey, guys, you want to come work for free tonight?
Yes. By the way, Braun's going to be there.
Oh, okay. So he's going to put me through a table? Yeah. And I don't get paid for that?
Yeah.
Well, no.
Is anyone else going to be there? Well, only everyone else who says they'll come for free. I'm pretty sure Joey Ryan will show up for free.
Which, as long as he does the penis plex to Braun, I'm okay with that.
I would actually pay money to see that.
And then Braun puts him through a wall. Both of those things would be things that people would pay to watch.
Yes. Yeah. Especially there has to be the comeuppance, and I just realized now that using the phrase comeuppance with Joey Ryan probably is not the right phrasing to use.
I'm actually going to change my role as the district attorney. I'm actually going to take the defense on the Bray Wyatt thing. I'm going to let JLB and you just attack WWE for the stupidity of it, because I don't think it's a horrible move.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
I don't think it's a bad move, mostly because, and it's WWE's own fault. They ruined the Fiend 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, 2 years ago, we were all like, "Oh my god, I'm so excited for this! I'm so excited." He's just a creepy guy, in this cartoon world with puppets. What is this going to be? What is this going to be? All of us were jacked. And then he shows up at SummerSlam and introduces the Fiend, and then by Survivor Series, we go, "What are you doing?"
Well, I think it's also because of the potential of what Bray Wyatt could have done again more. For sure, the Fiend gimmick has been off for quite a while. Really, since the pandemic, it fell flat a bit. And just because they
Again,
didn't
I would
know what they
contest
were
that
doing.
no, it didn't fall flat during the pandemic. We had the best cinematic match of all time, thanks to Bray.
That was John Cena. Oh, was that during? Oh, it was during COVID. It's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the only reason it happened that
That's
way
true.
was during COVID.
The very best. The reason that now today you go, oh my gosh, a cinematic match, this could be good, happened at WrestleMania. Usually they sucked, but both of those WrestleMania cinematic matches were good, and the Bray John Cena one was the best of all time. It told an incredible story over a 10-minute window.
Yeah.
It was short story writing at its very best. It was unbelievably good.
I will take a minute to interject, however, that while I'm not saying it wasn't a great I don't think it was the best cinematic match of all time. It was the best WWE cinematic match of all time.
Okay, I'll give you that because I don't know a lot of the other cinematic matches.
But for me, the final deletion.
Oh, yeah.
You know, which really broke the mold for cinematic matches. But with Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy. But anyways, no, I get it. You know, WWE hadn't shown that it could do cinematic matches. I want to point out, though, going back to the beginning of this, though, I said I'm not that angry about this. I'm literally not, because the timing of it is frustrating. But like you said, they basically ruined the character. They took everything they needed out of the character and gave it to Alexa. And then
she's not doing it well. Like she's doing okay with it because Alexa's in insanely good amount of heel work of acting. And Alexa's, I mean, she's a very good actress.
Mm-hmm.
That said, the Fiend character worked way better with with Bray Wyatt.
For sure. Well, it was his character, right? So anytime you're going to get someone to try to impersonate a different character, it's not exactly going to be the same. But I mean, like, if you're going to give it to anybody, for a woman to do it, or anybody even to try to do it, Alexa, you know, she's... That is bad. It's just, you know, you're taking a character that was already out there. You know, if you would have made her Sister Abigail, would have been maybe a little bit of a different story. But you just made her Fiend 2.0.
I'm 100% against her being Sister Abigail.
Yeah, I hate that idea.
Or Sister Abigail. I don't want
either of the abs. Yeah.
No, here's the thing. I make the joke of them sucking everything they could out of the character and giving it to Alexa. But we do also have to keep in mind Alexa's character is a completely different type of character, right? Mm-hmm. Because she doesn't come out in a mask. She doesn't have the Fiend side to her. She doesn't have the Firefly Funhouse, per se. She's got Alexa's Playground, which is a very different concept. Her character is more like a childlike evil, a Damien from the Omen sort of a thing. Which, yes, it's a spin-off from the Bray Wyatt Fiend character, but it's done in a totally different way. And I think that's the only reason that it kind of works, is if they had her coming out to wrestle in a female Fiend mask, no, wouldn't work at all.
I don't know that the Fiend was a good move as a whole. The creepy clown thing, I don't know. Here's the deal. Wyndham Rotunda has been saddled with Husky Harris as WWE's version of him, created Eater of Worlds Bray Wyatt, which was drastically misappropriated. And I mean drastically misappropriated. Could have been a better character overall than Firefly Funhouse. In all reality, I mean, quite frankly, the idea that the person who Undertaker beat between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania was Bray Wyatt, Eater of Worlds, to this day pisses me off.
Yeah.
If you knew you were going to have Bray at some point face the Undertaker, Brock should not have gotten that win. Brock should
Right.
not have gotten the
Well,
win the year before.
and that
It
brings
should
up a
have been
very
Bray.
important point. We say that WWE ruined the character 2 years ago, but in reality, WWE has spent most of Bray Wyatt's WWE career ruining Bray Wyatt.
True. I mean, yeah.
They allow him to have this Bray Wyatt character, which was his creation. And then because of 50-50 booking, the running joke from 2015 till he left and came back with The Fiend was that Bray Wyatt never actually wins. Because he basically just loses. He would come out, say a bunch of spooky shit, do the little spider thingy, and then lose.
Right.
And The Fiend was their chance to kind of rectify that and have him come out and win a bunch. And they didn't. And
And they were
almost
doing
like
well with that, even with Creepy Clown, until the Hell in a Cell. I don't think
Exactly.
he ever recovered from the Hell in a Cell.
Yeah. Well, and so much of it was like, again, we mentioned it at the time of the Hell in a Cell, and this is I guess a reoccurring thing with WWE recently, over the last 2 years, is they book themselves into situations they didn't need to do, right? The Hell in a Cell match didn't need to go down that way because it didn't need to go down at all, right?
Well, because you could have had that feud without a title being involved. In fact, not 3 weeks before, the title was on neither of those two wrestlers.
Exactly. So they booked themselves into this where they're like, well, crap, now we've got to have, somehow or another, we've got to have Bray Wyatt lose so the title stays on this person because we don't want him to have the title yet. But we can't, we want to make him look strong, so how do we,
Well,
what do we do? And that's
the
the same
problem-
problem that they were having with Keith Lee and Karrion Kross recently that I was saying is that they book themselves into this corner, right? They have Keith Lee and Karrion Kross go into a match. They didn't need that to happen. If the reports are true, which I'm going to go on a limb and say I think I believe the reports, right? That the plan was for Karrion Kross to come up and lose a bunch of matches to Jeff Hardy, to other people, and then Scarlett comes up and joins him, and Scarlett brings out the beast in him, and then he goes on a tear and wins. If that's truly what it was, that's fine, right? I still don't like the way they did it, but that's at least a storyline they were planning. But then Jeff Hardy gets COVID and can't show up this week, right? A week ago on Monday, couldn't show up. So what do? They book Karrion Kross versus Keith Lee. Keith Lee just recently returning from being gone for a while. Karrion Kross up here. So what now you have Karrion Kross beat Keith Lee, which totally just ruins your storyline. If you're trying to tell this story of Karrion Kross can't win without Scarlett, then Keith Lee should have won, right?
Right.
Oh, but we're, for whatever reason, angry at Keith Lee, I guess, and want to have him keep losing?
Right.
How
Okay.
dare you want your own name?
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Guess what? Don't book him against the other person that you want to lose. If you've got a storyline where these two people have to lose, then don't put them together because you can't have them both lose.
Right.
You know, and so these are all problems that WWE creates themselves, and it's the same thing that happened with Bray Wyatt for so long. Is they booked themselves into these problems that they didn't need to do, right? If you don't want Bray Wyatt to become the champion as the Fiend when the Fiend was hot as he was at that Hell in a Cell time, then don't book him into a feud with the champion. You know,
Don't let it be for a championship. I mean, there's lots
But-
of. You could have
but I-
literally had him win and drop the title in the ring and had a tournament and it builds another storyline.
you could have done
There's-
that, but
there's-
again, like you say, 3 weeks prior to that, neither of them were champion. So,
But I
if you
think
wanted
that's the issue, though, because all the fans wanted him to be champion. I think around that time, especially, everyone was so
Fans
high
can
on him.
want to be
everyone
wrong.
wanted-
Yeah,
Fans can want to be wrong.
But here's the deal. Again, if fans wanted it, but WWE's plan was not for it to happen, because that's obviously what their plan was. then don't book him in a feud with the champion. So either don't put the belt on Seth Rollins and book him in a feud with Seth Rollins without the belt, or put the
Right.
belt on Seth Rollins and book in a feud with someone else. These are two easy options, but they chose number 3, which was put him in a feud with the guy who's the champion, even though we don't want him to be champion. And that's what it comes down to. They turned a trinary, something trinary that should have been binary. You know, you have two options. You don't want him to be champion. Don't put him in a feud with the champion, right? Because you also at that time shouldn't have had him lose. He should have been the character that just tore through the roster. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the way he was up until that point.
Right.
Yep.
You know, and so it was so simple. Just don't put the belt on Seth Rollins. Have him and Seth Rollins feud. Then you can have him beat Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell. But you don't have to put the belt on him because Seth Rollins isn't the champion. And so you don't have this stupid ending to Hell in a Cell. Seth Rollins could have taken the L at that time, especially against The Fiend in Hell in a
Fiend.
Cell. You know?
Yeah. Well, the other piece to that is there needs to be something that is like one of the things about the Undertaker that we knew and still exists to this day. Undertaker's undefeated in casket matches, except for against Yokozuna. And that was like 12 people that attacked him and put him in the
Right.
casket.
Yeah. By the way, Darby
So-
Allin's undefeated in casket matches too, by the way.
Cool.
He's had one, but you know.
That was
He's
a
gonna
coffin
ma-
match, and I want to be specific about the difference. One's called a coffin, the other one's called a casket.
One sounds like coffee.
Semantics. And one sounds like
Anyway.
casquette, which is what as French people say as a little informative little thing there for you. But yeah, no, I
Yeah,
mean,
cool beans.
look, I'm just angry at them. Use them as a creative writer or something. You can't lose a guy who's that freaking creative who could literally help your product. He created a character out of scratch from nothing, no one's help. Said, "Hey guys, this is what I did." It's just there's value in him outside of the ring as well, and they clearly just gave no F-bombs about it and said, okay, fuck it. We're just going to say budget cuts, get out of here. You know what I mean? It's a bit ridiculous since the guy's been in your company. Obviously, they don't care about long-term, how long you've been in the company for, because we've seen with a bunch of other budget cuts that, you know, everyone's expendable. So it's very disappointing. $1 billion company just not saving any of their. You're not safe in $1 billion company that you've worked 20 years for. Is absolutely
Okay.
ridiculous.
So here's where I go out of the comfort zone of professional wrestling, and I talk about this again. In capitalism, corporations are not loyal to their employees, and they never will be, right? They'll
Right.
pretend to be loyal to their employees. They'll talk a lot about how we're a family here. We're all a family. We treat each other like family here. But they won't. And so my advice always has been, and this was even my advice when I owned a business. I said, you do not owe your company anything. They will not be loyal to you, so you do not owe them your loyalty. Now, I'm not saying go treat the company you work for like shit. I'm saying just understand that as soon as their bean counters decide that they would be more profitable without you than with you, for whatever reason, they will do that. And when they do that, don't be blindsided by it. And so at the same point, keep your eyes out for the bigger, better deal for yourself. And sometime you might bet on yourself and lose. but that this is my life advice to people. And that's the thing. Like Bray Wyatt's gonna be fucking fine, right?
Yeah.
He's going to wait out his 90 days and he's going to sign with the company. And it's probably going to be AEW because if you're AEW and you have the chance to get Bray Wyatt right now, you do it.
I feel
Wyndham
like
Rotunda is all elite. I'm predicting it right now. No ifs, ands, or buts. Like
I feel like we've talked about ones that would make a big difference. Ones that could be a Lex Luger moment or things of that sort. Boy, I think WWE just released a Lex Luger moment.
I think it would be a big deal. Now, well, it looks like we lost JLB for a second, so
All right.
when he comes back on, we'll add him back in. But
I can't see him.
Yeah, he turned into John Cena. What? But so I'm gonna go into fantasy booking a little bit here because I'm sure we'll talk
Wrong
about
show.
It's the wrong show, but I'm sure we'll talk about it on Tuesday as well. Anyways, but in the grand scheme of things, everyone's already doing it anyway. So there's a lot of people out there who are already fantasy booking Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, whatever he ends up wrestling under. I mean, he's not going to wrestle under Bray Wyatt, so that's WWE. But whether he wrestles under Wyndham Rotunda or he comes up with a new name or whatever, I don't know. But there are a lot of people already fantasy booking him coming into AEW and being the new leader of the Dark Order. And I say nay to that. I don't think the Dark Order needs a new leader. There's JB back. I don't think Dark Order needs a new leader. And I think they've said before that they're fairly committed to Brody Lee being the only leader of the Dark Order, right?
Yeah.
And then number -1, Brody Lee Jr. being the replacement, the new one, and they've kind of stayed true to that. So I don't think Wyndham Rotunda coming into AEW should come in as the leader of the Dark Order. I think he should come in.
Well,
as
there was
the
rumors
leader.
that he's the opposing.
I don't know if there's rumors,
Yeah.
but that's what I think they should have him. That he should come in as the leader of his own group. And for a couple reasons. A, like I said before, I don't think Dark Order needs a new leader right now. But B, ever since Brody Lee's death, Dark Order has been a face group. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They've been the faces. You have Wyndham Rotunda come in as the leader of this new cult that is vicious, that is more culty, and more bloodthirsty, and does their cult job better than them. And now you've got a built-in feud of the Dark Order versus the invading, whatever you call it.
And well, there's also the Instagram post too, right? Well, not the Instagram post, but his bio. It says the Cult of Wyndham coming soon.
It's said that since before WrestleMania.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I think it said from before WrestleMania last year.
Oh, damn. Okay.
I think he should come in as a tax man.
Yeah. Maybe Erwin
And that's-
R. Shyster. No.
And
no.
that's one thing too.
Irving R. Shyster.
Why didn't they ever use? You know how they like to use second and third generation superstars. Why didn't they ever make that a thing with Bray Wyatt and Bo?
Well, there could have been reasons behind it. It could have been personal. It could have been that Bray and Bo didn't want to be in their father's shadow. It could have been a little bit that, in the grand scheme of things, IRS was basically a mid-carder at best, right? And saying, we're the son of the mid-carder is not as big of a flex as you would like it to be, right? And so it could be that. It could be just that they were worried about the second generation curse sort of a thing. I mean, it's the same reason they didn't have Curtis Axel go as Kurt Hennig Jr., you know? Um,
God, what I wouldn't give for the B team to be back.
yeah. So, but that's part of
So
why
much
I was
fun.
gonna say part of why I'm still not as angry about this. I'm frustrated from a fan standpoint. I get that, but I'm not as angry about this overall because they fired his dad earlier. They fired his brother, right? He's sitting there at work, getting ready to come back. I'm sure I mean, yeah, the income loss is one thing, but I'm sure he's not actually all that frustrated because, like, listen, this company just shit canned my brother and my father in the last
sure.
year. You know?
For sure.
He's probably sitting there looking at his girlfriend, fiance. I don't know if they ever got engaged. JoJo, thinking, when are they gonna shit can her?
Yeah. That's I mean, I'm sure he's relieved if anything, like whatever. I'm sure and the thing is he was supposed to return too, right? Like apparently he was advertised for a few house shows. So it's
There's
just kind of
reports on
stupid.
that, but here's the deal: they advertise everyone for their house shows, even if they don't know if they're coming, because it's all about. That's why they put that card subject to change there to protect their liabilities. They can advertise anyone on their roster to be there, and then be like, "Oh, turns out they weren't available
Hey,
yet."
subject to change. Saw that
Yeah.
there. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
They
Oh, I'm
changed it.
sorry. We advertised the Undertaker. It turns out
He's retired.
he retired, and we tried to get him back for this, but we couldn't. So, oh geez, here's Velveteen Dream. We brought him back. Please
And of
don't
all
bring him
people,
back.
of all people.
Anyways, so you have him come into AEW as a different, and here's the thing that I think makes it work, as a alternate cult, right? You have the alternate cult pick off and recruit successfully one of the Dark Order members into the new cult. And I think they've already built up who it's going to be. And
John
it's
Silver.
5. It's number
No, it's John
5,
Silver.
Alan Angel. No, John Silver would be a great one from a popularity, but it's number 5. And the reason it's number 5 is the gimmick that they've had for the last year with number 5 is that they pick on him incessantly
Yeah.
on BTE and backstage segments on Dark. He is the redheaded stepchild character in the Dark Order right now. And you have this new cult come in and take him under their wing. Maybe he's a sleeper agent for a while, and then does the final reveal. And they turn him into a winner in this new cult. And so now he's out recruiting people to the new cult because, listen, I was in that other cult. I was in the Dark Order, and they didn't help me win at all. I go to this new place, and they immediately get me wins. And you have them do it with heel tactics. They have them cheat to win just regular. They make them be 100% heel. That's the way you do it with him. But ultimately, the simple fact is, he's been let go now for, 2 days, right? Officially. There are no official plans for him right now.
Right.
Wyndham
AEW,
Rotunda.
AEW hasn't contacted him because he's still under a no-compete, right? And Tony Khan has been dead serious about obeying no-competes and not doing. And some of that comes down to his history with other professional sports, right? American football and European football, because both of those sports have contracts, and if you they call it contract tampering. If you contact someone when they're under contact with another team and they're not allowed to be they're not in a free agency or a restricted free agency period, you can face some serious penalties, right? And so coming from that, Tony Khan is really big on, I'm going to wait until I know for certain that I can contact you. I have to wait until I know that your no-compete is done. Which is why, with Aleister Black, Malachi Black, Tommy End, whatever you want to call him, which is why I'm 99% certain that he was the one who instigated the contact with AEW when he realized that his contract only said 30 days. He called them up on day 31 and said, guys, just so you know, my contract only said 30 days. I'm available now. And they said, you're available now. Where do we sign? You know?
Right.
And so right now, Tony Khan and all of AEW is sitting in a holding pattern. They might have some ideas. This is what we'd love to do with them. We'd love to do this. And Wyndham Rotunda, Bray, I'm sure has some ideas. He's, I'm sure, already thinking about who he wants to wrestle next and what he wants to do. He's a creative guy. He's probably had plans for what to do after WWE for a while, I bet.
Right.
Ever since they shit-canned his brother and his father, he probably was like, well, let's start thinking about what to do later. But there are no official plans right now because he's still sitting at home in that no compete and not talking to anyone. I say anyone. He might now be having conversations with with Impact Wrestling or Major League Wrestling or NWA or even Ring of Honor, because I don't know how that management is on respecting no competes, but we do know how Tony Khan is on respecting no competes. So.
Right.
I'm going to continue one more piece to this crime before somebody else lays out a different crime, but I'm going to contest that I don't think AEW is the right move for him.
Whether it's the right move or not, I think it's the move that's going to happen.
Okay, fair enough, and I do want to qualify that. I think that the AEW roster over the last, we'll say 7 months, I'm going to say since the beginning of the year, has really become overtly overstacked. I think it injures the AEW roster bringing too many guys in that are, I don't want to say has-beens, but you kind of have a little bit. I mean, Wyndham Rotunda's in no way, shape, or form a has-been. He's in the prime, but you do have two guys that you just picked up that are knocking on the edge of being has-beens, with Bryan Danielson and CM Punk, and yes, there's a draw to those guys, and worth it for the draw, but I don't know that I can really say beyond a shadow of a doubt that that's the right place for Wyndham Rotunda to go, especially in this crossover market. I think he brings more value to other organizations, and I think those other organizations gain value, or not only gain value, but can bring more value to him. The one that comes to mind is if you fire James Mitchell and never let him be on television again. I think he plays well at Impact, but I think it is too dangerous with James Mitchell on their roster to pair the two, and it would just be garbage if you had James Mitchell at all involved with Wyndham Rotunda characters.
The problem with that is the reason James Mitchell is still in Impact Wrestling is AEW stands. Not AEW, ECW stands is what I meant to say. The ECW fans who still are dreaming of the days that ECW comes back still remember him as Sinister Minister from ECW, and they still have this hard-on for that, and they think that that's going to usher in the new era of ECW. It's, if anything, if you're an ECW fan and you want something, then you should be watching either GCW or you should be tape trading Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, PWG, because those are the closest thing you're going to get to ECW nowadays, right now.
Yeah.
But so James Mitchell is still there. Here's the deal. I get what you're saying about bringing in the older people and having this huge stack. The thing I'm 99% certain that CM Punk is coming in from a standpoint of building the next generation. From what I know about CM Punk, from listening to him on podcasts and following him on social media and all that stuff, I know he's a big fan of the next generation. So he's going to come in and to be perfectly honest, I said this the other day. Some people were all angry that reports have it that Hangman versus Omega is not on the schedule now for All Out, right? That they've changed their plans. That's why they had Hangman lose on Wednesday. And they're all angry about it. And they're like, well, man, I can't believe now he's going to, this. And I go, no, here's the deal. Think about how much badder, and I mean that from a good standpoint, how much more badass
There we go.
Hangman Page will look when he beats Omega after Omega beat CM Punk, right?
And Daniel Bryan.
And Daniel Bryan.
Bryan Danielson.
Yes.
Sorry.
I mean, here's the deal. If you now set Hangman up as the person who is finally able to beat Kenny Omega after Kenny Omega has beat the best in the world and the American Dragon, and those can both be absolute slobber knockers that end with heel shenanigans because the Elite interfere and help him win, just like they interfered to help Hangman lose in this match on Wednesday, right? They interfered, they handed the belt, they did all the things they could do. CM Punk and Bryan Danielson can lose to Kenny Omega through those same sorts of tactics. That's the whole point of heel groups like the Elite, like NWO, like DX when they were heel, is they use this pack mentality to win these matches, right? But to get then, after Kenny Omega has won through all the big guys, Hangman Page finally beats Kenny Omega, it's going to be lights out. Insane.
Yeah.
Right? Now, Bryan Danielson, whatever you want to call him, is going to be kind of the wild card because he's the one that I feel like still in his mind feels like he wants to compete and have actual competitive win-lose-loss matches. Because I think he thinks he can still go. And I agree he still can, but you're right. He's at that point with his injuries, with his body just in general, and with his age, that he also needs to be thinking more about.
Yeah, this is Triple H putting over Sting, who just came in, or Triple H putting over Brock as he just returned. You know, that's the stage of their careers that I see those two in, and I'm not saying anything negative about it. I feel like you've worked very hard to build up the MJFs of the world, very hard to build up the Jungle Boy on a face side, Darby Allin on a dark character face, all of those types of people. I just think there's a better fit for Wyndham Rotunda in Impact, barring you just have to know that James Mitchell cannot be a part of that. You have to know. Like, don't even have an on-screen discussion where James Mitchell's trying to convince him and he tells him to F off. Like, it just doesn't exist. Like, James Mitchell, Wyndham Rotunda doesn't exist. I think ROH could pull it off with him. I would be depressed because I wouldn't get those matches.
And so that's why, I point out.
I think NWA could pull it off with him.
Yeah. I just point out that AEW brought in Christian Cage. And Christian Cage, so far, it seems like he understands that his goal, his point to be there, is to put over the younger talent.
Yeah.
Jungle Boy being one of them. And I feel like CM Punk and maybe Bryan Danielson are going to be in that same boat. At the same point, you mentioned that the AEW roster is really stacked, and I agree. And this is where the unfortunate side is. It might be the time for AEW to start looking at, is there people that we don't need to keep around anymore? Right?
And
are there people that just no longer seem to fit? And I'm going to throw out maybe one or two names that might piss some people off.
Jack Swagger.
Yeah, I would be fine if Jake Hager is gone. I got no problem.
Well, and quite frankly, he has a really good Bellator career.
Yeah,
they can just go do.
I would not cry, and I think Kenny Omega might, but I would not cry if Michael Nakazawa was never on the screen again. Right. I also would not be sad to see Luther go.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
he apparently
would not
has,
be sad to see Luther have never come.
Exactly.
Apparently, Luther is also a backstage producer, which is fine. Keep him in the back. You know, this is when you transfer them from on-screen character to backstage, right? I personally, and I know some people would be angry, but I don't want to see Paul White wrestle. They
Right.
made sure to point out when he signed that he's got his wrestling certification, so he can wrestle. I don't want to see that happen.
If you're gonna do that,
And-
then just hire Braun.
Yeah. And in conjunction, Mark Henry. I don't want to see him wrestle.
I wouldn't mind seeing like a backstage lifting contest between those two
Yeah.
when they're just bantering with each other.
I'm also going to, and this is something that probably won't happen because they're really trying to put him over right now, but QT Marshall. Can't get behind the guy. I can't get behind him as a heel, and I can't get behind him as a face. He's just there. He's
Yeah,
just
straight
like
up.
a lump on the log, and just get him, take him off my screen, and let him go. Let him be the backstage producer and continue to train people because he is good at training people. I get it, right? I personally, these people mostly wrestle on Dark, but Serpentico and Sean Dean, like, they're both younger. I just don't see a huge upside in any of them. I personally, I love one of the Seidols, but it's not Mark.
What?
Very
So
dickish.
I would be fine if Matt Seidel was the only one of them that was there. And so, I mean, there are people that could slim out. Also, however, keep in mind that
I'm
in
gonna,
1
I'm
week,
gonna throw some names that'll really piss people off. I'm okay with losing a Rhodes, and it ain't Cody.
yeah, I kind of suspect that we've seen the last, at least for the time being, of Brandy Rhodes in ring.
I'm talking about another Rhodes.
And I think Dustin is slowly transitioning backstage. I agree it could go faster, though.
Yeah, but he had some good matches. I don't mind him there, and he's obviously
I'm not
gonna
saying
go
he doesn't
anywhere.
have good match. To make room for more MJF versus Darby Allin, to make room for more Jungle Boy versus number 5 or John Silver, to put John Silver on screen more, to put some of those characters on screen more. It's time to start transitioning a 50-year-old wrestler off screen.
That's fair.
I mean,
Yeah.
the who's closer in age? Cody, who I think is 42, maybe 41, 39, somewhere in there, or Arn Anderson. Like, and I know Cody's actually closer in age to him than Arn, but seriously, Arn was still in the ring when Dustin captured his first world television title.
And by the way, Cody Rhodes is 36.
Okay, so he may
snap.
actually be closer in age to Arn Anderson than he is to his little brother.
I'm going to throw out 3 names, and I'm going to preface this by saying I'm sorry to say this out loud because we are going to be seeing you in a few months at Zello Pro. But Billy Gunn and Austin Gunn and Colton Gunn.
Yeah, but they're hardly on Dynamite anyways.
They're still on the roster. They take up some room that could be someone else. And frankly, Billy Gunn, he's also backstage as a coach. That's one of his things. So transition him backstage full time. But I know they're good wrestlers and they have a certain charisma, but it's not a charisma that resonates with me at all. And so I watch them come out and I'm just go meh. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, as we talk about these big rosters and everything, we're 1 week away from AEW having a second televised show.
Yes, and that's going to open up a lot of that room.
And so there's going to be some extra room from that. And it's just a 1 hour show for now, but I would venture to say as much as we have heard that TNT is happy with, or Turner just in general is happy with AEW's ratings, that after the move to TBS next year, that they might expand it to 2 hours. So we have a 2-hour Dynamite on Wednesday and a 2-hour Rampage on Friday.
The other piece to the Rampage part is Kenny Omega I'm trying to remember whose podcast it was that he was on, said he had hoped, this is not in writing that they're doing that, but he had hoped that Rampage would be a marquee for the women.
Mm-hmm. The reports from Tony Khan says that Rampage is going to be a direct continuation of the storylines on Dynamite.
Yeah.
So, but just having extra time allows them to have
show more women and stuff. Yeah.
Women. It also, keep in mind, they're not putting on just a 1-hour show on Friday nights for Rampage. It's going to be a full 3-hour show. Just only 1 hour of it is going to be televised. Right? Just like when you go to a Raw or SmackDown,
you're there for 4 hours.
You're there for 4 hours. Only 2 to 3 hours of it actually goes out live on TV. The rest of it is filmed for Main Event or 205 Live or something like that, network special stuff. And that's where AEW Dark and AEW Dark Elevation are coming in.
Yeah, I think that those web-based shows are really they're what opens up your lower level product, your developmental. That's their NXT.
Yeah. Now, I would love for them to officially move one of them either Dark or Dark Elevation. I would prefer Dark Elevation to move because I think them putting it Monday nights,
and then Tuesdays,
and then another one immediately on Tuesdays. I would like them to move Dark Elevation to Saturday nights. Have it on YouTube still, just like it is now.
Oh, I think they should open that up too to YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Watch.
Well,
no, all of those.
I'm fine with them opening it up, but my point is not worrying about putting it on TV, but bringing back Saturday Night Wrestling, or Saturday morning wrestling if you want to put it on in the morning.
What a gift that would be.
Yeah, that's fine. But I think then you would have Tuesday night Dynamite, Tuesday night Dark, Wednesday night Dynamite, Friday night Rampage, Saturday Dark Elevation, whatever it is. And then the important thing is none of them directly compete with your main competition, right?
True.
Yeah, Rampage comes close, but it's set to follow SmackDown instead of directly compete with SmackDown. If they go to 2 hours,
so it's going to be at 10. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
At least that's what the schedule that I'd heard. Which means you show up to the Rampage taping. The first 2 hours that you're there is taping for Dark Elevation.
Dark Elevation.
Now, the one thing I would like Dark Elevation to do is invest a little bit more in storyline. Because right now, if you watch either of them on YouTube, it's just match.
That's it.
You know, they put a graphic up in between the matches, and Taz or Paul White talk about it a bit. Oh, coming up next, we got this match from these people. And they go, I would like them to start putting some backstage segments in them. I would like them putting some vignettes in there.
Vignettes.
Gotcha.
It lives forever.
It does. I've been said in like the longest time, but it lives forever. It seems.
I'm going to make that into a shirt. I'm telling you.
You said that a year ago. I'm waiting.
Yes, I'm working on it. My computer was shitty.
All you have to do is use the just write vignette and then change the pronunciation symbols on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I'm trying to see if I can find a place to get a good screenshot of JLB's face so I can digitize it and put it right next to it. So it's a vignette with his face right there.
Wow.
When a wrestler and then use the wrestling promotion as vignette for vignette. The definition of a vignette as a wrestling promotion.
Backstage segment.
Justin LeBlanc. Raw and Order WVU.
That's it. That's it.
Anyways, but I would like to see Dark and Dark Elevation have a little bit more of that. Turn them into real shows, not just wrestling showcases.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And then you can have that storyline. But I agree in a way with, I'd like to see Rampage. I would like to see AEW Dynamite feature more women's matches just in general. They've got a stacked women's division that everyone thinks is shitty because they see one match a week if they don't watch Dark or Dark Elevation, right? And if they watch those, they might see 3 matches a week. And it would be nice, and I hate to say the word quota, but it would be nice if they put together this concept of we need to have X number of women's matches each week. Because they've got an absolutely stacked women's roster now. And yes, some of them needs to learn to work the camera better. In fact, as much as I like Hikaru Shida, she still needs some work on working the camera. She's gotten a lot better.
Shida.
You'd think Allie the Bunny would be better at working the camera since she came from Impact, but she needs to work on that a bit. Jade Cargill doesn't need to worry about it for backstage, but she does need to in-ring a bit. She's still a little green on that in the ring. You know what was really good? This was the one that surprised me when she first hit the ring. Anna Jay, for as green as she was in the ring, she knew where the camera was at all times. Her ring awareness from that standpoint was phenomenal. And so she's coming back from dislocated shoulder, I think, shoulder surgery. Tay-Conti knows how to work the camera because she was trained in the Performance Center at WWE, and they trained for that there. Thunder Rosa is pretty good at working the camera. Red Velvet's really good at working the camera, so as inexperienced as she is as a whole.
That's why Jade Cargill and Red Velvet actually were the highlight to the Shaq Cody Red Velvet and Jade Cargill match. It was like, I mean, I'm excited to watch Shaq and Cody, but holy crap, the best part of this is the other two.
But in a way, their inaugural women's champion, Riho, really doesn't know how to work the camera.
No.
Kind of sad.
No.
Yuka Sakazaki will be a fucking beast once she learns the camera. She already has a lot of crowd support. She already has the crowd eating out of her hands. She just needs to start to connect more with the people at home. But then you've got people who struggle. Emi Sakura struggles with the camera. Big Swole struggles with the camera, and that's sad because she's
I think
phenomenal.
Emi struggles because of so many years in Japan. I mean, she did 30 years in Japan where it was over. I mean, it was over for her to have the Freddie Mercury gimmick. She comes out with the Freddie Mercury gimmick here, and we're like, why are you dressing like a guy who's been dead for 30 years?
Yeah. But like Layla Hirsch, who signed in the women's division, if you don't watch Dark, you've only seen her a couple times on Dynamite. She's phenomenal in the ring, but she doesn't know how to work the camera at all, and that's holding her back.
And working the camera is like what? Just kind of looking at the camera when you're doing a move.
Looking at the camera, setting the moves up towards the camera. We were talking about it before you joined before the show. If you're at a live event and you're sitting on one of the sides that's not where the hard cam is, if you're sitting on the hard cam side, right?
You're
I
seeing
say
what
that
they
as I
see.
block my microphone so no one can hear me. You say that on the hard cam side, right? You see the show as the people at home are going to see it, for the most part. But if you're sitting opposite hard cam, suddenly now, instead of the punch looking like it hits the person in the face, the punch looks like it goes past their face.
Right.
Because
Because it does.
Because it does, yeah. But they're working it towards the camera because they know the camera's there. I need to make this punch look like it hits the face to that because I'm working it to the camera, right?
Okay, right. Okay.
And it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things if it looks good to the people in the crowd because it's got to look good to the millions and millions at home.
That's valid.
The other piece to this that's really relevant is this is a common play versus acting in a movie thing. But both of them require you to play towards whatever your audience is. So in a movie, you can turn your back because it may be part of there's mics in other positions and stuff, so you can have your back to the camera because that might be how they want that in that moment. If you're in a play in a theater, you're playing to the audience almost 100% of the time. If you have a speaking line, you do not turn your back, like in any way, shape, or form, because they can't hear you at all. It is the equivalent of Smarks putting his hand in front of his mic and saying, yeah, it just doesn't work. And so that's part of, in wrestling, you have to play to that hard cam because the hard cam is going to be your match. They don't come out. You even Cena, when he comes out, who's the big name right now, obviously, otherwise our children wouldn't tell us that. When he comes out, he plays to that camera. Yes, he does turn around and play to the audience as well. But you can tell a guy who is a little bit green because he'll try to play to where the audience is. And in WWE, the audience is almost exclusively on one side, so they can make the arena look full.
Yeah, that's the thing, especially pre-pandemic. I think the arenas are pretty full now, post-pandemic. But pre-pandemic, that was the thing. All the WWE blogs were all talking about. Oh, here's a shot of the crowd at this event, and it would show hard cam side. There's nobody there. And that's because WWE would pack the event opposite hard cam so that the people on the opposite side would be on screen, the hard cam plane. But what that means is that if you went to the event, you were looking at people's backs a lot. Because John Cena would come out and he'd deliver his entire promo that way.
Right.
And you'd be like, well, I paid money to come here, right? But they're playing to the crowd. They're working the camera. And it's more than even that. Like,
there's a much larger crowd on the other side of that camera than there is in that arena.
But on top of it, it's even more than just the hard cam, though, because you got the people down at ringside with their cameras. And so you'd see the little light on that camera and know that's the camera that's live right now. So that's the way I have to point this now. And that's part of why it's such a taught skill at the Performance Center, is because it's so important for you to know, find the camera. Where is the camera at? This is where I have to play to, right?
This is also why it's so important to have all those camera angle changes that we bitch about in Roman Reigns matches.
Yeah. Well, the difference is, if the camera angle is always going like this, it's even harder to play to the camera. And so having a little bit slower camera angles changes makes it a little bit easier. But that's where go back and watch early episodes of Dynamite. Now, and as much as I love Dynamite, and I loved it from day one and everything, watch the first episode of Dynamite and you can tell the people who had experience in WWE or TNA, Impact, whatever you want to call it, versus the people who were indie wrestlers, right? You watched Cody come out and talk straight to the camera. You watched Britt Baker come out and play to the crowd. Because she was an indie wrestler prior to that. And so to her, the audience is the crowd. And she admits this. She talks about this now. In a recent podcast, she went off about how how much she's grown because she learned how to be on TV. Because it's a different skill.
We've admit this to each other in discussions about how to place our cameras for this podcast. All of us have said it's difficult to not look at the screen and because it's normal to talk to a person. Yeah. And so we're looking at the person and it's very difficult to look over at the camera.
I'll be the first to admit that I still struggle with it. You saw me earlier. I was doing this because I'm looking down at my iPad to see what's going on. But if you're the camera there, this isn't intriguing to you. This doesn't look like I'm talking to you. And I'm looking here. I'm looking right at JLB's on my screen, but that means I'm not looking at the camera, right? So I have to learn to talk to the camera here. And so I had to position my camera.
Now I feel like you're talking to me. Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah,
Instead
when in
of
fact
like
he's
this-
not.
In fact, I'm not.
In his mind, he's not talking to you. He's talking to a
Right.
camera.
Yeah, I'm looking right at a bright light right there. And I do cheat just a little bit because I put the camera right next to my screen. So what I actually do is I look right at my own eyes. So I'm still not looking directly at it, but I at least see my expression and all that. But it's tough, and it's tough for all of us. And that's why I'm not criticizing any of the AEW wrestlers for not knowing it in advance, because if you don't have to know it, you don't know it, right? If you don't have to work to the or work to the camera, you don't. And so, I mentioned the Zello Pro that we're going to. It's going to be taped to be broadcast later on Fight. That's what they're doing with the show they're doing tonight in Milwaukee. And our show is the next one, right? But it is still a relatively low budget independent wrestling scene that doesn't have a hard cam, just has some cameras at ringside, and the wrestlers there don't play to the camera. That's not their goal is to play to the crowd, because the crowd are the people who paid to be there. The crowd are the people that feed them energy. And it's important. Like, John Cena comes out and gets this huge pop, and he plays off of it, and he plays up to it, and I get it, right? But he knows he gets that huge pop because he plays to the camera, so the people at home connect to him, right? And then when they finally are in the arena with him, they pop hard. And I'm going to pop hard at the Zello Pro when Jordan Grace comes out, because I think she's phenomenal. And I wish more people watched Impact and watched Jordan Grace. I'm going to pop hard for Alex Shelley, because I've been a fan of his for a long time.
Nice.
But
It's also it's also, I mean, imagine how difficult it is for The Rock to come out, because The Rock's one of the guys who gets to use four corners, to use all four corners, and he comes out, and now The Rock was also at the heyday of wrestling, so maybe he was playing to audience when he did that, but he goes to that first corner, hard cam side, opposing the entry ramp.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he always went. That was the first corner he went to, opposing the entry ramp, hard camp side, and would hold that belt up. Imagine that nobody's there.
yeah.
So they do always have some people on that hard camp side, but you're paying the same amount for those seats as you are for the other side seats.
Mm-hmm.
And your sign will never be seen. And that's also where the cameras are. The cameramen are on the ground level. Cameramen are there. All four of them. They rarely go past the entry ramp.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, once you start to understand hard cam side a little bit more, you realize that all of the major spots in WWE, especially, are designed around the hard cam.
Yes.
Every single one. Roman Reigns does a drive-by. It's all 99% of the time.
It's hard cam or announcer side.
Or announcer side, yep.
Where two cameramen are.
Mm-hmm. But it's always playing to the cameras, right? And that's the thing. WWE, you go to their performance center, you train in wrestling, and then you've got entire classes, literal classes in talking to the hard cam. Where is the hard cam? Identifying it, playing to that. And that's the problem that I think AEW faces with. They don't currently have a true performance center. They got the Nightmare Factory, which is QT Marshall and Cody Rhodes' training facility. And I think Cody Rhodes might do a little bit of the hard cam talking, but for the most part, the people that AEW is training are training in wrestling, not in camera work, right?
Right.
And that's why so many of them struggle. And, I talked about female wrestlers who struggled with the hard cam, but, a perfect example of someone who's found the hard cam and figured out how to work the cameras is John Silver, right? Mm-hmm. Early Dark Order, early John Silver, he didn't know where the camera was. He was just all over the place and everything. But now that he knows where the camera is, now that he knows how to work it, he comes out, and you can almost see him walk out of the thing, and boom, I know where the hard cam is. Right. Boom. And so now I play all of my stuff towards that. Because that's where the money is. But like Butcher Blade have a hard time with the hard cam.
Yes.
It's something that Anthony Bowens and what's his fucking name? I'm totally blanking.
Oh yeah, what's this fucking
The
name?
Acclaimed.
Okay.
Master Jack Caster
Yeah. Max
something.
Caster.
That's it.
That they struggle with. They do just fine when they come in for their rap, right? But I have frustrations with their raps as well. But when they're in the ring, this is where it's different. Once they're in the ring, they lose track of the hard cam, and they just go into wrestling mode. I mean, so many of them struggle with it. Ethan Page doesn't. Ethan Page knows how to work the hard cam. So does Scorpio Sky. Joey Janela struggles with the hard cam a bit. He's getting better. Same with Sonny Kiss. Struggles with the hard camera. Marco Stuntz learned the hard camera fairly well, and that's good for him because his whole career is based on fan support, right? Like,
Right.
I think he's phenomenal in the ring, but he only gets and keeps a career because he keeps the crowd on his side, right? Because he's got the, to use a phrase, handicap of being small. Miro's good at using the hard cam, working the cameras, because he has his WWE background. Orange Cassidy's good at working the cameras. He almost knew that from the start. So that's good. But like QT Marshall still sucks at working the hard cam. Santana and Ortiz struggle with the hard cam a bit. Sean Spears struggles, which really is surprising because he's got the WWE background. Wardlow struggles. We mentioned that. Private Party struggled a lot at the beginning. A lot. And I think they figured it out now. I also think Private Party have learned recently that their ring gear early on was crappy and didn't play well to real audio, to TV. And so their ring gear now is a lot better. Luchasaurus struggled with the hard cam originally, but he's gotten a lot better. Kip Sabian still struggles with the hard cam. Both of the Hybrid 2, which is still a dumb name. They should just call them the Hybrids or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, but both of them struggle with the hard cam a bit. Darby took a while to learn the hard cam, but he's pretty good at it now. So, but then you look at the ones that didn't struggle at all. And almost all of them that have no struggling have backgrounds in WWE or Impact Wrestling, you know? Of course, we mentioned Billy Gunn. He's such a pro. He's done it for so long. Boom. Lock on the hard cam as soon as he comes out. I'm there.
Who?
I'm with you. Billy Gunn.
It doesn't matter what his name is.
Yeah. Bobby.
Sorry.
My name is Billy. It doesn't matter what your name is. I rewatched that promo this week just because I had to. I was like,
Such a good promo.
it's surprising that Billy Gunn still had a career after that because that just absolutely fucking destroyed him.
Oh, it did kill his main event singles push. Just slaughtered his main event singles push.
I just won King in the Ring, and everyone knows that I absolutely
They
suck.
suck.
We suck.
Bobby.
Oh,
My
Good
name's
old
Billy. It doesn't matter what your name is. Anyways, we've got way off track on this whole thing.
Yeah.
But talking about here's the thing. I think because my point of all this was, I think there's still room on the AEW roster for Wyndham Rotunda, and I think because of Rampage and AEW Dark, that's where it happens. But this is based a lot on the idea that some of these older people, the Bryan Danielsons, the CM Punks, the Christians, the Mark Henrys and Paul Whites and and Sting's. And I think Sting is a good example of someone who came along and knows that his role in that company is to help the youngsters. And I think he's shown that, right? His whole role in this has been, I need to make Darby Allin look like a rock star. And he's, I think, helped a lot, you know? As long as those people know where their position is, because this is one of the things that WCW struggled with, especially towards the end, was bringing in the older wrestlers and not using them to prop up the younger wrestlers.
Having the
That's-
olds.
Yeah, having the old people. Although I still point out that we were saying Hulk Hogan was old when he was younger than most of the big stars in WWE. You know? So
Yeah.
but anyways. But I think there's room. But in the end, like I said, whether it's the best place for him, it's the place that I think he's going, because I think Tony Khan right now is like I said, he's not talking to Wyndham, but I'm sure he's talking to the bean counters about, okay, what can we offer him when he's available? What is our offer? And we need to make sure that our offer is up there so that Impact or NWA can't come in and beat us, right? Because this is that big of a signing for them. At the same point, I do think, and it's the sad thing, we give WWE a bunch of crap for cutting wrestlers, right? But it is important to note, and this is what I was saying earlier, companies owe no loyalty to anyone, right?
And they owe no loyalty to those companies.
And they owe no loyalty to those companies, right? And that's why we'll get into it in my next in one of my misdemeanors, but AEW is approaching the time when they might have to make some difficult decisions with some people, and we put out some names that would be difficult to make the decision for, but AEW might need to consider down the road to continue signing the stars of the future. But AEW can't sign every star, and we get that. You know, there's a reason that the fucking I'm trying to think of a really good name of some of the people who were cut. I'm totally blanking on the name. They painted their face in WWE. They were kind of like Road Warriors.
Ascension.
There's a reason that the Ascension aren't on AEW,
Yeah.
right? AEW can't afford to just sign everyone who used to be on WWE. And the Ascension were good, but they weren't next level good.
Yeah, it's not going to do anything to improve their product per se.
Yeah, we've mentioned before, and he's going to be apparently at the Zello Pro that we're going to. Formerly Aiden English, Drama King Matt. He's going to be at the Zello Pro. There's a reason that AEW didn't sign him. He doesn't bring a ton to the AEW market, right?
Right.
And they would have to think about cutting some people to make that make sense. AEW can't sign everyone, and they haven't. And anyone who tries to play off that AEW is just signing all of the former WWE wrestlers is fucking insane, because I can literally bring up the list of WWE wrestlers let go last year, and the vast majority of them no longer are not with WWE or with AEW,
Well, I did want to throw out one more name of persons that, just because I like controversy creates cash, Marco Stunt could be cut.
I don't really disagree. I love Marco Stunt, and I think the thing with Marco Stunt is he doesn't have a feud right now. He doesn't have a storyline.
There's not even somebody you can put him really.
Did
in a
he
feud
ever
with
have
that
a
you-
feud though?
No, he hasn't. But that's why I said he survives on fan appreciation alone. Now he can fucking go in the ring, and they could tell a good storyline about the underdog beating someone big. Like put him against Butcher, right? have him be the underdog who goes against the bigger butcher and finally wins. That could help put him over, but he doesn't have that, you know.
And they haven't I mean, they've had plenty of time to show it, and they haven't. He's been the guy who sneaks one in when Luchasaurus is in the ring, or he sneaks one in when Jungle Boy's in the ring.
Yeah.
I just don't know that he really amplifies either of those two characters.
So we'll talk, just because I want to really put this home to people who say AEW just signs all people WWE releases. These are people released this year. I'm not even going back to the 2020 releases. These are this year that AEW hasn't brought in. Killian Dane. No. Kurt Stallion and August Gray. They were both NXT, so that's fine. Marina Shafir. No. The Bollywood Boys. No. Tyler Breeze. No. Fandango. No. Arturo Ruas. No. Tony Nese. No. Arya Daivari. No. Everrise. No. Braun Strowman.
Bastards.
No. Buddy Murphy. Not yet. I still have hope, though. Lana. No. Ruby Riott. Now, these people aren't out of their no-competes just yet, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Ruby Riott. But the only reason I could see Lana in AEW is just to keep Miro happy. But I think she'd be just fine as a Twitch streamer.
Valet.
Yeah. Santana Garrett, Jessamine Duke, Lars Sullivan, Steve Cutler. He ended up showing up
Dodged a
in...
bullet there.
Yeah. Steve Cutler ended up showing up in Impact. Peyton Royce and Billy Kay. Now, I want to see them there, and I hope that they sign them there, but they haven't shown up anywhere yet. And their 90-day no-competes are done, so they can be anywhere, right? Point out Mickie James and Chelsea Green have both signed with other companies other than AEW. Tucker, Kalisto, Bo Dallas, Wesley Blake. That's a lot of people that WWE has released this year that have not shown up in AEW, right? So anyone, because you see that repeatedly, people saying, "Oh, AEW just signs anyone that WWE releases," and it's simply not true. It's verifiably not true. You go back to last year, right? Akam and Razor, the authors of Pain.
Yeah, where did they end up?
Nowhere.
Nowhere.
They went so nowhere that there were rumors last month that they had retired from wrestling, and they actually had to go on Twitter to dispute those rumors. Say, no, we haven't retired. Well, if you're not wrestling anywhere, you might as well have retired, right?
Right.
Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona. No, he's killing it in GCW and Impact, right? Mike and Maria Kanellis, right? They're in Ring of Honor now. And apparently happy there and everything. Primo and
Slaying
Epico.
it. I mean, Maria's their GM and doing a great job as that in that role.
Eric Rowan, Eric Redbeard out there. Not doing it. Sarah Logan went and had a baby. So, that kind of kept her off the market for a bit. EC3. EC3 was one of those that I was clamoring to get in AEW. No.
Nope. In fact, he's reinventing himself.
Yeah. And killing it in Ring of Honor, right? Kurt Hawkins, who's now killing it in Impact. Heath Slater, who went to Impact and was killing it until he fucking
Got hurt.
Eric Young's back in Impact. Curtis Axel is nowhere to be found. No Way Jose finally appeared in Impact.
Right.
Not that I care. Cassius Ohno.
Did he really this week?
No,
yeah.
well, on the
2
pay-per-view.
weeks ago. The pay-per-view, and then I think this week they had him in a match. He now just
was
goes
his-
as No Way. Apparently, WWE only trademarked the full name No Way Jose. So as long as he just calls himself No Way, he's not breaking that trademark, I guess. Alexander Jaksic. Aiden English we mentioned. Heck, they didn't even bring in Kathy Kelly, which I thought would have been a great backstage get for them. I mean, nothing against Alex Marvez, but Kathy Kelly's a lot easier on the eyes. So. But so it's just demonstrably false, this narrative that AEW just signs every WWE reject.
Kathy Kelly also could go to any type of sporting event and be a
and I think
sideline reporter.
she did. I don't know
I mean, she could.
offhand.
I'm gonna go work for the NBA. Okay. Like, yeah, she'll be fine.
Let's see what Wikipedia says about her. Yeah. She appeared in one episode of the Netflix sitcom #BlackAF as a flight attendant.
So she's working on an acting career.
Yeah. Apparently.
I think a journalism career might not be a bad move for her.
But anyways, so I just think I think the AEW has shown that they're not afraid to open up their wallets when they spot a talent, and I think Bray Wyatt is the talent that they're going to do. Like you said, he's the closest that we have to a Lex Luger moment right now. And to be perfectly honest, I know we did a booking where we talked about the Lex Luger moment on FBI a while ago, and I know I didn't say Bray Wyatt, and I can't remember if either of you said him. But
That's because we really didn't think he was going to. I mean, we didn't say Roman either because we didn't think it was ever going to happen.
Yeah, so that's we dropped a ball on that, but yeah, I mean, this is if I'm Tony Khan, whether it's the best move or not for Wyndham Rotunda, I'm opening up my wallet and I'm doing everything I can to get him there.
For sure.
Right. Now that being said, I'm also going to make a very important point of saying we're going to give you creative input on your character. We would love for you to be the culty character that you were before, but if you want to reinvent yourself too, we want to at least know what you're planning before we sign this here check. You know what I mean? Because if he wants to reinvent himself as a new Husky Harris character, then AEW's out. You know, they don't need a Husky Harris. But if he wants to reinvent him as something else altogether that's not cult related, but still badass, then there's still an option. But he would be number one on my get list if I were AEW right now. And as much as I want Buddy Murphy, he would be above Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy probably is sitting at home going, son of a bitch. I had AEW on the stringer, and now this has to happen, and now they're looking at their budget to try to decide whether they can have us both there. And maybe I should go out and kneecap Billy Gunn. Buddy, if you're listening, don't go kneecap Billy Gunn.
It's against the law.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Wrong.
And you will get arrested for it.
Fired.
Don't do it.
Yeah. Do not
From
go
life and in prison.
Don't do it, say, in the ring by accident if they hire you.
Yes.
Don't do it.
100%. Don't go watch all of the footage of Nancy Kerrigan and learn how not to do it. Anywho. So we'll move on. That was kind of a joint crime for all of us. I kind of just started it, but I knew we were all going to talk about it. Does anyone else have another crime they want to talk about?
I do.
Okay.
Dominoes.
Back in Dominoes.
So now,
Pizza?
yes.
Did you hear about it? Hey, are you out of the loop enough on the Dominoes thing?
Apparently, he's
No,
out of the loop.
I am out of the loop.
Oh, this will be fun.
Okay, hold on. My crime. I will explain it.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I said this will be fun. I'm gonna sit back and watch.
Okay, so Nick Gage and Chris Jericho obviously had their match. Obviously, there was a pizza cutter involved. Nick Gage sliced Chris Jericho up, and they had to go to commercial break. So they went to commercial break.
Commercial break.
Can you just let me finish?
It's important that it's
I
picture
was
in picture.
going to say that. That was my
But you
next
hadn't yet.
line. It was my next line. Either way. Yeah. So They're they're going commercial break. It's going to be picture in picture, and the first commercial you see is Domino's slicing up a pizza with what? None other than a pizza cutter. So
Well, yes, because that's the best way to do that.
right, but they were just using a pizza cutter in the ring as a weapon, right? So it was a whole meme online for a bit, and then Domino's, I guess, caught wind of it and actually put out a statement now thinking that they might actually remove their ad time from AEW because it makes their brand look bad. And then along with that, there was also rumors that the WWE, this is a big rumor, whatever, might have had some ploy there in letting Domino's know what had happened, but I don't entirely believe that.
Whether they had anything to do with letting Domino's know, there is a reporter who texted into one of the wrestling reporters, right, with screenshots of his texting with a WWE representative that they wanted him to write a negative piece about AEW and Domino's, that they wanted him to put negative publicity onto it. So
oh wow, okay.
So
That was
whether
actually
whether WWE had anything to do with Domino's knowing it about it or not is a separate thing altogether. But they did. It's fairly well confirmed that someone at WWE, and it might not have been with Vince's knowledge, but someone at WWE reached out to a reporter and said, "I want you to write a piece about how horrible this was."
So that happened, and then the funny folks over at Pabst Beer decided to do their own little take on it, and they said, "Hey guys, if you want to cancel out, we'll take your spot, no problem." And they did like their bottle of their can of beer there, and their cap was like a pizza cutter kind of thing. So. You know, it was all a ploy on that. So now Domino's might actually be taking their time out or their spot out from AEW just because, hey, you guys are supposed to be 14 and you're not supposed to have all this violence. It doesn't look good on us. I get it as a brand standpoint, but at the same time, like they keep saying it's a pizza cutter. Like, it's a bad look. I guess maybe the first commercial shouldn't have been Domino's, but I mean, anybody already made this connection that, hey, a pizza cutter is used to cut up pizza. What pizzas do we know? Maybe there's pizza, Domino's, whatever. Like you're already associated by the pizza cutter. Either way.
Well, here's the biggest thing it comes down to, because AEW, and this is important to note, AEW has no control over what commercials play.
Right.
They have no say in that. That's a Turner thing. That's the network, right? So the fact that the network played that at that point is beyond
genius
AEW's control, right?
Right.
Now even more than that, this is why it's such a stupid coincidence sort of thing is I used to work in radio. I have some experience in television through shadowing a friend who worked at the local television and taking classes in television broadcast. When it comes down to all of this, the fact that it was a Domino's commercial that aired in the picture-in-a-picture right as Nick Gage was cutting Chris Jericho's head with a thing is a whole comedy of coincidences. Because the person in the AEW truck didn't know what commercial was coming. Nick Gage didn't know what commercial was coming. You know, so that wasn't planned, right?
Quite frankly, Domino's had no clue that that's where it was going to get played.
Yeah, well, the
Right.
thing
Or
is,
that they were going to use pizza cutters in the ring.
when Domino's bought time, they bought a time for segment X of hour 2, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So in anything, they say we're going to take X number of commercial breaks. So usually 4, right? They say there's going to be 4 commercial breaks during this, right? I want mine to play in the 3rd commercial break of hour 2, right?
Oh,
Okay,
I can get it
great.
in during the picture-in-picture. I definitely want it during the
Yeah, it's going to
picture-in-picture.
be in the picture-in-picture. Great, I'll do it. In
Oh,
picture
first commercial
hour 3.
picture-in-picture. I'll pay extra for first commercial picture-in-picture.
Yeah, but all of that stuff. But in the end, AEW didn't know that it was going to be Domino's. The guy in the truck didn't know it was going to be Domino's. The guy at Turner headquarters didn't know it was going to be Domino's.
Well, someone
it's all
had to have
pre-programmed.
known. Like, come on.
It's all pre-programmed by the advertising people, but those advertising people aren't watching it live, right? They programmed it in advance when they sold the thing.
That's
Wait.
one happy coincidence, though.
It's
Come on.
it is. It's a
It
comedy
is.
of coincidences. It is an absolute
Oh.
comedy of coincidences. Because here's the deal: the picture-to-picture, is based on time. So Nick Gage, if Nick Gage is 30 seconds early or 30 seconds later with that pizza cutter thing, this doesn't happen, right?
Right.
But Nick Gage doesn't have someone in his ear saying, "Hey, do it right now." He's
Right.
just doing this match, and he pulls out in his mind, because I'm pretty sure most of that match was called on the fly. I don't think Nick Gage is a
Right.
let's practice it sort of guy, right?
Imagine.
So
Let's practice cutting you with a with a pizza cutter.
yeah, let's rehearse this 3 times. No, so it's called basically on the fly. I mean, they knew what certain spots. Okay, you're gonna do a pizza cutter spot. We're gonna do some light tube spots. We're gonna set up the glass pane, and then you're gonna do a Frankensteiner on me off the glass pane, or whatever, into the glass plate. They knew the big spots, but they didn't have it like minute by minute planned out. So the fact
Right.
that they went to a commercial break at the time that Nick Gage had just done this is the first coincidence of anything. Because again, if he was 30 seconds later on doing it, they would have been in the commercial break. The Domino's Pizza commercial would have ended, and then he pulls this out. It still would have been scandalous, but
Right.
it wouldn't have gotten the same sort of a thing, right? If he was a minute earlier, it would have been done, and then they go to the pizza, and no one would have said anything, right?
Right.
If the show had run early, right? If a match an hour earlier in the show went short, which it did, that threw off all of the schedule, all of the timing for that main event that happened, right? And I point out that it did. A match earlier in the show went short. The FTR versus who were the Pride and Powerful. Santana and Ortiz.
Yeah.
Yeah. That match ended early because Cash Wheeler slashed up his arm, right? I think it was technically his right arm, but anyways, it doesn't matter. I don't know if you saw that, right? But he did a splash on, I think it was Santana in the one corner. And when he came down, his arm caught the metal part of the turnbuckle post and gashed way open. And he was bleeding like a stuck pig.
Oh, dirty. Okay.
And so they rushed the finale. He dropped out to the outside. The people came over and gave him a T-shirt or something to push against his wound. And Dax Harwood had to end it by himself, right? And so it was a rushed finish. So that match probably ended a minute or two early. And that coincidence, an hour earlier in the show, I don't know if it's an hour, but earlier in the show, pushed all of the schedule up, which then made everything that happened in the main event happen earlier as well, right?
Right.
Probably
So that's-
closer in time because they did do some filler in other matches.
Yeah,
but
they might have done filler, but it still moved everything around, right? Everything happened maybe a little earlier because then they're stretching out. Let's play this out. We'll give you more time in the main event. Who doesn't want more time in the main event, right?
Right.
Tell your story a little better. Nick, you're going to have an extra minute in the main event. That's 2 more light tubes that you can smash. I'm on it.
what?
2 more light tubes. Sign me up.
Oh man, but Nick seemed lost, though. Like I don't know if he was nervous, but he seemed like
That goes back to our hard cam stuff.
Yeah, I was going to point that out. That's working the cams. Nick is an indie wrestler whose entire life is about working to crowds, and that's what he did. but he doesn't know how to work the cams as well. And this isn't a knock. I want to be clear when I say that a wrestler doesn't know how to work the cams. This is not me trying to say that this wrestler is bad. Right?
It's just harder for television.
It's just this
It's
wrestler
better for
hasn't-
live.
Yeah, this wrestler hasn't developed the live TV skill. And that only comes with practice or rehearsal, right? And Nick Gage, his entire career has been person to person in the crowds, right?
Right.
Let's
Yep.
work the crowds. And so you put him out on this, he doesn't know where the camera is. He doesn't know to look for the cameras. It's not his skill set. He's not designed around that. And so he just does his thing, but to people at home it looks like he's lost because he's not finding the camera. He's not taking time to aim. Okay, now I got to do it so this looks good to that over there, right? So I want to make sure that I put Chris Jericho's head right here, so when I smash the light tube to it, it shatters right in front of the camera. No, he's worried about working the crowd. So he goes over here and he smashes it over here, and it has to hope that the camera is able to catch it. And the cameras were for the most part able to do it, and so everything was fine there. But it's why he looked lost, because he's not a work the camera guy. But that's why I say this whole thing is a comedy of coincidences. I'd say a comedy of errors, but none of them were errors. It was just a coincidence after a coincidence after coincidence. Working in radio, I did not know the ads that were coming up before I went to a commercial break. They were pre-programmed in the computer. I just pressed play. I knew there were 2 minutes of ads. I knew at the beginning of it there would be a stinger that I would play going into the ads, and at the end of it there would be a stinger that would lead into the weather report bed that I would read the weather over, or a bed that I would read the next song over, or whatever, right? But the actual commercials were just pre-programmed, and I didn't have a say in it. I didn't have knowledge of it, and I didn't have any control over it, right? I didn't have the ability to say, oh, I just badmouthed Pizza Company and Domino's is my first ad.
Yeah.
I better put them at the end, right? No. I didn't have a say because that's what the ad department's there for. Their job is to program the commercial breaks and put them put them together, and then it's just a package, and the guy in the studio just says play commercials. Boom, presses a button and the commercials play. Right. And then he's got a countdown. In the commercial, we go back in 5, 4.
All right.
Yeah, in fact, I highly doubt until somebody said something to them about it that AEW had any clue. Mm-hmm. So here's, I guess, as the outsider looking in who didn't see it, who saw the match but didn't think anything of this and didn't know that there was a lawsuit piece, or not a public. This is the problem with being willing to overreact to anything. At the end of the day, in the 90s, not today. I'm gonna roll back to a less sensitive time. In the 90s, they wanted to cancel Looney Tunes because they thought it was encouraging violence in children. Am I off on this, Smarks?
Nope, you're right on there.
There was talk about canceling Looney Tunes because they thought it encouraged violence. And at the end of the day, never once at 3, at 13, at 23, 33, and in another 2 years when I'm 43, none of those times have I ever thought, God, if I run off a cliff, I just shouldn't look down.
Mm-hmm.
I should just keep running. At the end of the day, the best play for Domino's here, in my opinion, is our pizzas aren't nearly as tough as Chris Jericho's skin, so we don't have to use the pizza cutters as hard as Nick Gage did. And then just move on with life, because people are going to forget it. Because at the end of the day, if you like Domino's, you like them because of their pizza. If you don't like them, you don't like them because of their crust.
Or if you're Domino's, you just put out a thing that says, hey, at Chris Jericho, your next order will be delivered uncut.
Yeah, just
Genius.
play with this.
Well,
And
keep in
move on with
mind,
life.
Jericho did also have a tweet about Domino's, though, like way back, I think last year or something, complaining about the delivery. So I don't know if the Domino's spokesperson
Do
for
whatever
Twitter,
you want to do. Just the naysayers can naysay all they want. Tell them to shut up and move on with life.
yeah,
They're the same people who are gonna say that AEW can't get its own wrestlers. No premium organization should be building their own from scratch.
to have to put out a statement though, I found was so odd. I'm like, really, guys, you're wasting your time with this though. Like,
And I don't.
It's-
I mean, I don't pull my funding. I fucking deliver the next fucking pizza cutter. Like,
Here's the deal.
have a
It's-
pizza guy come to the ring. Like, where's this supposed to go? Oh, they forgot to cut it, and take it out of his pocket and start cutting it for him.
Fuck you.
And somebody grabs it and attacks somebody with it. Like,
Or the next episode of Dynamite, you put up a code on the screen. Use code Pizza Cutter for 10% off your next order.
yeah, like,
Right.
forget that.
You
Like,
use code Nick Gage for 10%. Just fucking roll with it. But no, here's the deal. Domino's is this is all performative in my opinion. This is all
because this
Domino's.
isn't getting any mainstream coverage. This is getting wrestling coverage.
that's
Well,
it.
move on with life.
This is all entirely
Those of us who
performative.
watch
This
it know that this is fake.
This is Domino's going out. We don't want calls from parents of 13-year-olds who are angry that their kid saw this. So we point out it's a TV 14 show. So if your 13-year-old or 12-year-old watched this and you're angry, right, that's on you. You allowed them to watch a show that's TV 14. But we also didn't know about it. So don't come at us. We didn't know about it. It wasn't planned. This is all performative on them. But like to DFA's point, right? The vast majority of people, including Domino's executives who might have been watching, including AEW executives who might have been watching, the vast majority of fans did not see it when it happened live.
For sure.
I didn't see it when it happened live.
I didn't notice.
I
it.
didn't notice
Think
it.
a thing of it.
Yeah, DFA didn't think it. You might not have noticed it up in Canada because they might have aired a different commercial there. I don't know. I do know
that's valid.
that it was a U.S. commercial. It may have also been a North American commercial, but I don't know.
That's fair.
But
Also,
the vast
side note-
majority of fans didn't put two and two together. It wasn't until someone watching it on Twitter thought, "Hey, this is really funny," and rewound his
Screen capped
DVR
it.
and recorded
That's
it and screen captured it and put it up on Twitter. And that's where I found out about it. And then I
That's
forwarded it to the group text, and we all laughed. Well, okay, two of us
I didn't
laughed.
because I didn't read it.
You apparently didn't read it. But I thought it was funny, right?
One job.
But here's the deal: is like,
No, I was
we're-
doing my one job.
we're
Well, you
AEW's
guys were
target
texting.
market.
Yeah, 18 to 34. Actually, we're all but one of us is too old to be in the AEW target
Shut
market.
up! I'm AEW's target market because
We're in their number 2
I'm-
market.
I'm 18 at heart.
30. We're the 35 to 50. So,
Yeah, no, I'm 18 at heart.
and
I
you're,
told
you're
my
closer
wife
to
when we
50.
got married that I may get older, but I'll never grow up.
Now, JLB on the other hand is at the tip-top edge of the 18 to 34 market.
Oh. No, and I don't know. I just
You're
the
like
whole
Wile E.
thing-
Coyote looking over the edge and just don't look down, bud.
No,
Don't look
no.
down. Oh, you're gonna fall. There it goes.
Hate to break it to you.
If I ever meet a guy named Elmer Fudd, though, I'm definitely never trusting him. I'll tell you that much. Not gonna do it.
Oh, why not?
That was really well done.
That'll be
That's
too
good.
much fun.
But yeah, I don't know. It was a whole. They made a whole big thing out of it for nothing, like you were saying. And I'm curious. I believe I PVR'd it, so I'm gonna definitely check that out. I think it might have only been an American thing, though. I feel
Yeah.
because maybe I
Either
just
way.
didn't notice it because I didn't see it wasn't there for me. Because TSN tends to show their TSN related stuff.
At the end of the day, no shit's given. Move
Nope.
on with life.
That's it.
So here's mine.
Now, that being said, I'm going to really quickly on this. If I am PBR, which we already know PBR has no problem with the hardcore because they
awesome.
sponsored CZW new GCW champion Matt Cardona in his win against Nick Gage. They were all in on that. It's why immediately following, he's in the media scrum being asked about his win. He's like, "Wait, where's my PBR?" And he had to grab it to hold it next to him because he was sponsored by, obviously PBR's in it. But if I am any other company that is hoping to get market share in this 18 to 49 era, which is the overall, which I do want to point out, 18 to 49 is the actual market demo that they break it down to. The 18 to 35 is a sub-market genre, but that's beside the point. If I'm looking, if I'm fucking
You're
the
old,
NFL,
fucker.
if I'm the NFL wanting to get more viewers, right? I'm taking an ad on AEW in the main event right now. I'm saying, listen, this is the sort of shit that I want. This is the sort of shit that made WWE the market leader. And I'm not saying blood and guts hardcore matches because they didn't do blood and guts so much, but pushing the boundaries and doing more adult content is what got them 5 million viewers on average on Monday nights. It's what got them the wins versus Monday Night Football every week.
Yeah.
that
So
time.
NFL season's coming around, and I want to make sure that they watch NFL. I'm picking up AEW and being like, hey,
Hey,
you think this is violent? Watch this. Boom, boom, and just people getting wrecked.
if I'm Hooters and I want to rescue
Sell
my
more wings.
sinking business, I take out ads on AEW main event, right?
No, that's not how Hooters saves itself. It saves itself by having better food.
Yeah,
Their
it's
food is
valid.
terrible.
I
It
concur.
is terrible, but that's not how they're going to do it. Restaurants never think, "Hey, our business is failing. Let's make better food." They're always like, "Hey, our business is failing. What do? Let's cut
Put them in
costs.
tighter clothes.
Let's put them in tighter clothes. Let's make our food shittier, but let's put out a bunch of advertising."
All right.
Anyway, moving on to DA Fabe's little crime.
God, because you interrupted me, I seriously don't remember what I was going to say. Oh my gosh.
See, that's why you should never be rude, Mr. Smarks.
Oh, that's why I'm always rude.
Oh, I do too. So AEW obviously is opening up another show on TNT temporarily. It's eventually going to go on TBS. Smarks and I have had this conversation about placement of titles numerous times off air. I think I know where Smarks' brain is going to be on this. But realistically, I'm a little frustrated with AEW at this juncture right now because there's not an internet championship. I think with Dark and Dark Elevation, I think it opens the opportunity to have an internet championship, the AEW Internet Championship, the AEW YouTube Championship, the AEW Google Championship. They partner with whomever you want, because obviously they're making Google money already through YouTube. So go ahead and give that sponsorship or whatever it may be. This is going to sound like a cheesy crime, but in the long run, it's a preemptive crime, because at the end of the day, I don't think they add a TBS championship, and I think they should. They have a TNT championship. I've been frustrated. I think Smarks mentioned maybe that he didn't like the idea of it being defended anywhere other than TNT. And it's not. It is defended other places other than TNT.
Yeah.
It's not featured on the internet, but I think pay-per-views do get kind of a freebie, a pass. But is that time's going to come that we're going to be on TBS and TNT? I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? I guess as a whole, this is a preemptive crime, knowing that right now they aren't capitalizing on the fact that they have 2 television shows on internet.
Well, for me, like I struggle because one of the problems that I see WWE having, and we've talked about it, is too many titles, right? Universal title, WWE title, North America, U.S. title,
U.S. title.
Intercontinental title,
Intercontinental.
Women's SmackDown, Women's Raw, Women's Tag Team, and that's
Raw
not even
tag,
counting-
and
Yeah,
SmackDown
Raw tag and
tag.
SmackDown tag. That's not even counting the
24/7.
NXT title. Oh, and 24/7, yeah. And I don't want AEW to get into that problem with too many titles. I don't.
I don't think that's the issue though, because you remember the old WCW television title had to be defended on television. It could not change hands at a house show. And so that's where my
And
thoughts
so
were.
what I was going to get at is if they do another title, it has to be something that doesn't already cover something that they have. In fact, I
Well, it's
fantasy
going to be
booked
the trio
something.
thing, no? It's going to
Well,
be
and
the trio championship.
that's what I was kind of going to get to. Now, yes, I fantasy booked Joey Janela having a hardcore title that he made. But I want to point out that like the FTW title, the hardcore title that I was having him do was not going to be an official title. It was going to be his title, right? That was going to be the whole gimmick, is that he's the one who has it, and he's going to find a way to win the hardcore title every time. Just like the FTW title is Taz's title, and whoever has it is going to be one of Taz's guys, right? And if they put up a match against someone that's not one of Taz's guy, and he looks like he's about to win, Taz makes sure that he doesn't win, right? So if they're going to add another title, I think it has to be something that they doesn't currently interfere with the titles that they have. And that's the Trios title, a three-man tag group, and or women's tag title. Those are two titles that they don't currently have. The Trios title, I think, is going to happen whether I want it to or not. I think AEW really... I think its indie roots have a lot of roots in trios. I would prefer them to add a women's tag title first.
I would agree.
I
Especially
don't-
considering
I don't know if they're
especially
even
considering
ready
the girls
for.
are-
Yeah, I don't know if they're ready for that yet, though.
I think the only way you get ready for that is by doing it. And I think they're more ready for that than they are for a trios.
Especially
how
if they
many-
hired the Iconics.
Yeah. How many
Right.
trios, how many men's trios do they have?
6. The Elite, Dark Order.
But I argue the Elite are not a trio, and I would argue that the Dark Order are not trios. The Dark Order are 2 tag teams and a couple other singles wrestlers.
Still, you can have 3 members of
You
that.
can have 3,
group.
but that's not what trios is. Trios is not just about 3 people joining up. It's about a trio group, right? So New Day are trios wrestlers. New
Okay.
Day is a
So you're
trios
talking
team.
Jurassic Express.
Jurassic Express.
Okay.
You know, everything else is a tag team
Taz's
plus
group?
1. Taz's group, arguably, yeah. You have Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs and Hook.
I think you can make an argument in favor of the Inner Circle and an argument in favor of the Pinnacle.
You can make some
You
arguments.
can do it
that,
for the Pinnacle. I would agree with the Pinnacle.
um
Not the
And so-
Pinnacle, the Triangle. Death Triangle, I would
Death
agree with.
Triangle.
Death Triangle.
Death Triangle is a trios, right?
Yeah.
But that's the trios as a whole. It's a different style than just regular tag teamed, and the tough thing with it is you can't. It doesn't work very well to just take a tag team and put another person with them and say now they're a trio, right? There's a whole style with trios. Typically, trios has luchador style tag rules, which means if someone rolls out of the ring, they've tagged out and someone else can just go in, right?
Right.
You don't have to actually tag. If you get out of the ring, if you leave the ring, someone else can go in. And that's a whole different thing there. Like FTR, the tough thing, we mentioned the Pinnacle, but the FTR doesn't fit a trio because
No, because they're traditionalists.
they're traditionalists and all that. But in the Dark Order, you've got John Silver and Alex Reynolds. They're a long-standing tag team, going back to the Indies. You've got Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, the original Dark Order, long-standing tag team themselves. Then you've got a couple other solo wrestlers, Preston Vance, who's number 10, and Alan Angels, who's number 5. And then you've got currently Hangman Page and Colt Cabana. Now, the only way that I can see them making a trio Dark Order is to take Colt Cabana, Preston Vance, and Alan Angels and make them a trio. But I don't think that's a good trio. I think all 3 of those would be better off as singles wrestlers. Better used as singles wrestlers. And that's the deal. But the other side of the coin is AEW's women's division has so much talent in it that we don't see on the regular. That adding a women's tag to that division gives us another showcase of women's wrestlers, right?
That's fair. Yeah.
And that's why I think that's the better new title to add, if anything. Like, you've already got Britt Baker and Rebel.
Right.
Rebel comes back from her injury, and that's a tag team right there once Britt Baker's no longer champion, right?
Has she technically fully wrestled? Rebel?
In AEW, once or twice, but
Okay.
prior to that, she was on Impact for a while.
Oh, okay,
She was
true.
a knockout at
Right.
Impact, right? You've got Tay Conti and her best friend, Anna Jay, who is working her way back from a dislocated shoulder. When they come back and together, that's going to be a great team right there. You easily could pair Emi Sakura and Yuka Sakazaki, or Riho and Yuka Sakazaki, and have a Magical Girls team right there. And these are people that don't get a lot of play right now on things. Big Swole could pair up with Jade Cargill or fucking Serena Deeb. You know, they can. There's a lot of things there, but just in general, there are a lot of women wrestlers right now who don't get any time because there being one women's title, they get one match a week on TV. You bring out a tag belt that instantly can double the amount of women's wrestlers on TV each week.
Or they just don't use it. Because just because you have a one-woman title doesn't mean you have to have one match every week either. You build feuds for different things. Hey,
No, I agree, and there's a lot they can improve there, and I'm not giving them a pass on that. But my point is, you add in a tag title now instead of a one woman versus one woman match. You can have a one woman versus one woman match leading up to the tag or the regular title, and a 2-on-2 match. That means a total of 6 women wrestling on Dynamite instead of 2.
Right.
That triples the number of women that could wrestle on it. And even if you don't have a singles match, you just have a tag match, that still doubles the number of women that wrestle on
Right.
that show, right? It also opens it up on Dark and Dark Elevation and Rampage to have those there. So that is why I think if you're gonna add another title, it's women's tag, right? I think they run the risk right now of having too many male singles titles. So that's why I don't want them to add one of those until they get a little bit more airtime. So if
Well,
Rampage,
that's why I said when they have Rampage.
yeah. Well, and even after Rampage, if Rampage is still 1 hour, I don't think it's enough to add another men's title. But Rampage going to 2 hours might be enough to justify it in my book.
But you don't think there's room for a TBS or for an internet championship right now?
I do. I'm gonna hedge this a bit. I don't, as long as it's solo men's or solo women.
I would absolutely open that up.
Yeah, if they make it a
Mixed gender and everything.
mixed
yeah.
gender, match thing, I 100% be behind an internet championship.
I would put it online in tag matches.
Yeah, that'd be. I mean, maybe you don't even need an internet championship. Just give me storylines for the online ones. I don't necessarily need a championship. Your whole thing for the online ones is to make it to the Dynamite or the Rampage now, sort of ordeal. To make it to that spotlight, so you get the AEW titles.
I think they could easily add some storylines to the Dark and Dark Elevation, but just saying winner of this match gets a match on Dynamite. Right?
Just like that.
Boom.
Just like that.
You've solved that, right? Oh, it's Layla Hirsch versus Red Velvet. Winner of this gets to face Hikaru Shida on Dynamite this week.
And you could even put it like, oh, her record is this, so it's perfect. She wins this, she gets to face whatever at Dynamite, you know?
Exactly. So this is the number one contender to the number one contender match.
Or even to face number 5 on AEW Dynamite kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So,
or put them together in tournaments, you know, or whatever. But that goes back to what I was saying earlier about I would like to see more storylines on Dark and Dark Elevation rather than just wrestling. And, you know I'm a wrestling guy. I love to watch work rate, but I also would love for there to be like some storylines, some backstage vignettes, or vignettes. You can do either.
I will say that if they introduce a TBS title, they should talk about the tournament they had in December of 2020 on TBS to establish the TBS champion. When it obviously didn't exist on TBS.
at this rate, if
they
you're
could
going
just
to
have talk about a tournament down in Rio.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, just as an absolute mockery of the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah.
Well, at this rate, though, if you're going to make it now a TBS title, and what, you still have the TNT title? Like, it's kind of stupid. Just make it a television title.
They can only be defended on those channels.
Well,
but they're
here's the
only
deal:
going to be on TBS.
Dynamite is going to be moving to TBS too.
Yeah.
Next year.
Ooh, yeah.
So that puts that in. I think they've already said that the TNT title is going to remain being called the TNT title because it's named after the
explosion Dynamite. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the channel that gave them their big break.
Yeah.
You know. And I get that. Now there's at least something I was going to talk about it in, I guess, commendations or miscellaneous. I don't know. Misdemeanors. That might play into this. AEW has trademarked something this week. That, has gotten a lot of people talking.
This one pisses me off.
Well, that's why I said I don't know whether it's a commendation or a misdemeanor because there's a lot of ways they could go. They applied for a trademark for King of Hearts, specifically spelling it HART, like Owen Hart, who was the King of the Ring and called himself the King of Hearts. Now, there's a lot of speculation about it, and we don't know yet what's going on with it. There's one speculation that it's actually video game related, that they're going to introduce a game, whether it's a slot machine or something on their AEW casino game, that's going to be called the King of Hearts.
Okay. So it doesn't necessarily mean AEW.
It doesn't necessarily mean on TV. Okay. But it could be. Like I said, there's all speculation. We just know that they filed this trademark.
This could be a King of Hearts tournament that they're going to have.
A King of Hearts tournament
that Owen Hart.
That Bret Hart is going to present the Owen Hart Memorial Trophy to the King of Hearts at the winner of the thing. We don't know yet. It could be something that they plan for their Rampage thing that they're going to do yearly King of Hearts wrestling. I mean, maybe it's the pure championship sort of a thing. This is the one that goes to technical skill, not. Who knows? We don't really know yet. But that's at least something to consider because there's a chance that it is a title of some sort, whether it's a belt or a trophy or or a King of the Ring style. I won this tournament.
If
thing.
this is not in honor, and I don't think that that's what they'll do, but if it's not in honor of Owen in some way, shape, or form, they shouldn't have done it.
Knowing TK and how big of a wrestling fan he is, I guarantee you that it is
It's
going to
Owen Hart
be
related.
in honor of Owen Hart in some way.
Okay.
And I would bet with Bret Hart's recent problems with WWE again,
What recent problems?
well, he's just always been back and forth with WWE. I don't know have specific ones. I just know in the not too distant past, he's been bad mouthing WWE again. I don't know what it stems from, but he's always had these problems that pop up. And the fact that he was the one who presented the AEW World Title when they first revealed it, right?
Right.
Which led to more stress between him and WWE. I would 100% bet he's involved somewhere in this concept. Now, if I was Natalia right now, I'd be a little bit pissed that the other company is trying to trademark something based off the Hart family name that I've been the one carrying in modern wrestling.
Didn't do much. I'd be embarrassed if she was the only one carrying. Oh, jeez.
I would.
She doesn't know how to do a sharpshooter, so you know.
Yeah,
I
it,
was-
man.
My only hope is that they do some type of homage to Owen.
It's definitely gonna be. I see it for sure.
No, I mean like a Life and Times, but unfortunately, I don't think WWE releases the footage
Yeah.
No, for sure.
of the
Yeah,
matches.
that's the problem.
so-
Is there's, I mean, they can take footage from Calgary Stampede.
That's it. And whatever Vice took, I guess, as well.
Any of the footage that's owned by Owen Hart's widow.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mean to put an S on it. Anyways, singular. But yeah. So I don't know. I guess I don't know if JLB finished his rebuttal or his thoughts on another championship in AEW, but I think I think
No, I
there's
mean, that's
enough
about it.
singles championships right now.
Oh, I mean, that's it. And if you're gonna make my whole thing was if you're just honestly gonna don't make an internet championship. I think that's silly. Make it so hey, to go to your show was what my whole thing was for that. And no point calling a TBS championship. But if you're gonna do that, just make it a television championship and end it, kind of thing.
Well, I think they can't legally call it a television championship because I believe that is technically owned by WWE.
You're telling me the only time they thought of television championship was when WCW?
I'm saying it was trademarked by WCW
Oh,
and WWE took over that trademark and, as far as I know, continued to hold it. I mean, it's the same reason that you can't have the big gold belt on AEW. It's not that WCW was the only ones who thought of making a big gold belt. It's just that WWE owns the rights to the big gold belt, and AEW can't use it.
So you can't just make a big gold belt?
You can't make
can.
one that looks like the big gold belt. Because that's a likeness trademark.
Fair. Okay.
You can, however, hop online and just search for big gold belt and find like a dozen different companies that make replicas, and you can buy one for like $150.
There you go.
I mean, not that I've spent the last week looking at those going, can I afford $150? I really kind of want to have one so I can get Jordan Grace to sign it at Zello Pro and just be like, I know you never wrestled for WWE or WCW even, but you know, just sign it right here.
Oh, true. You got a meet and greet, no?
Yes.
Or maybe you should just buy her book or something if she has one.
That's lame. Actually, what I want to get is
You want to buy a $150 gold belt by and
Who
get it
reads
signed by a
nowadays?
person.
Who reads nowadays?
A lot of people. Apparently, you don't, but a lot of people.
Not I. I actually read a lot, but that's beside the point. I don't like signed books because for me books are about reading, but other things are about displaying. Now, if she had a action figure out, I would 100% buy an action figure to have her sign. Right? I will buy an 8x10 and have her sign that. That's fine. I just was trying to think of something. Now, I also was looking. She's been hinting a lot about how she wants to go after the X Division title. So I did think about buying an X Division title to have her sign that, just saying, for the future. I tweeted at her that she needed to aim higher and then tagged the AEW championship.
Or bro, just get her Down with the Thickness t-shirt on on Pro Wrestling Tees. That sounds awesome. Down with the Thickness. That's awesome.
Get up. Come on, get down with the thickness.
Or Team Pog, and then I don't know what the other ones are. But yeah, Down with the Thickness. That's awesome.
But anywho's. Well, that brings us to the end of that there crime. So misdemeanors, and then we'll go to accommodations. Any misdemeanors to talk about?
I mean, there wasn't really much that happened aside from like the Domino's thing, Bray getting released, and yeah, I don't know. Not thinking of any at the moment.
My only misdemeanor I had was just Braun trying to get back in the spotlight by playing off Bray being released, and that's all my thing. I 100% think he's just trying to get his name back out there.
I have a preemptive misdemeanor to WWE for having a different wrestler play the Fiend.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one for changing Reginald's gimmick to Reggie, and he's no longer French from France. He is from St. Louis, and they're blaming it all on Carmella.
I don't hate that, so I think it's creative for them to at least come up with a storyline behind it, instead of just like Lana, where she just casually dropped the.
It's still a lack of creativity, though. Oh, just because Carmella wanted me to be French, I'm actually from St. Louis.
Well, okay. Now, keep in mind, I want to be clear on this. He didn't say Carmella wanted me to be French. He said Carmella was hiring a sommelier, and I thought pretending to be a French sommelier would pad my resume enough to get a job. So that's why I pretended to be French, so I could get hired by Carmella to be her sommelier.
All right, fair. Still lame, but I get it.
I think it's more creative than just saying, yeah, his accent's gone. We're not going to explain
That's exactly what's going to happen with Apollo Crews.
You know what else would be really great? Is if he had an accent, and then he delivered a promo in the ring, and somebody else who was in the ring looked at him and said, "Hey, wait, I thought you were Jamaican."
And then you suddenly look like, oh, crap. I forgot I was supposed to be doing an accent right there.
Oh, this guy's has a leadership role in the company, and he just called me out on screen.
Cena did that to him?
No, Trips did.
Ooh, I got to rewatch that. I don't remember that.
That was Second Run DX, HBK, and Trips DX versus
Trips
New
DX.
Day.
Okay, that's fair.
Trips and HBK versus the New Day.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, mine only is against Braun, just because I think he's just trying to get his name back. We know nobody was talking about you, and then one of your former stablemates gets released, and now you start making hints like you're making plans with him.
Yeah.
What I am willing to go on the record right now and say, if we see Braun wrestle again, it's going to be in a WWE ring. He's gonna sign on for less money to go back to WWE, because I don't think the other promotions really have that much desire to sign him.
I have a misdemeanor for my commendation.
Okay.
A misdemeanor against me for my commendation, for having dirty thoughts about my commendation.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and move to commendations so now you
Okay.
can explain that.
Congratulations to Shotzi Blackheart and Brandy Lauren on their engagement.
Yes. Or is it? Because they've made comments on it that it was all a joke, too.
Well, either way,
But
you understand the misdemeanor now, and you also.
But if indeed they are engaged, then congratulations. And if they are not, then how dare you fucking play with our emotions like that?
Yeah, I can't blink without thinking happy thoughts about that.
But yeah, no. My commendations are simply AEW put on just a phenomenal show last week. Just absolutely phenomenal from top to bottom. Even if you don't like deathmatch wrestling, if that's not your thing, I get it. Right, take that out of it. The rest of the show was top notch. They won the night for the third week in a row. Well over 1 million viewers. 3 weeks in a row. The death match, despite all the negative publicity and all that stuff, featured a rising viewership of 90,000 people. Wow. 90,000 more people tuned in to watch that death match.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I would have appreciated it more if I hadn't seen a Nick Gage match recently. But I just saw the Cardona match, and I was just like, this is the same shit. I'm done.
Yeah.
But I've seen a bunch of those matches, so I'm just probably over it. That's all.
You know, Nick Gage's matches are all going to be the same. In the end, there's only so many things you can do with light tubes, glass plates, and pizza cutter.
Well, then you're just not creative enough. That's all that is.
And especially when it comes down to in a ring in front of a bunch of people, you know. I mean, I guess the next thing they could do is a Joey Janela Zandig jump off the top of a building. But just Joey Janela, how that ended up for him. And he will tell you not good.
Not good. Broke his back.
Side note, did you guys hear about Domino's on that episode?
Did you hear about Domino's? No, the AEW, like every segment was good. Was great, right? Was it a perfect night of wrestling? No, but it was like I came away from that going, this is why I watch wrestling, which I haven't said about a WWE show in a long time. So
I do think their whole CM Punk like promoing of it was maybe a bit too much. They kind of teased it with every segment that they had.
They teased it heavily, yes. They have then gone on to, in 1 hour, sold 12,000 tickets to the United Center on their pre-sale. Okay. In 1 hour, right?
That's fair.
Now that is, I'm going to point out, that is the United Center is the largest capacity indoor arena in America, right?
Oh wow! Okay.
And it's important to say indoor, right? It's not larger than many of the outdoor stadiums, like football stadiums and stuff like that. But for indoor arenas, the United Center
sold how much?
12,000.
Oh,
12,000 of their tickets. But that's because the pre-sale only opened up about half capacity. So there's another 12,000 tickets that go on official sale here soon.
Check chat.
Yeah. So,
hey, go to the comments, delete them.
Have we gotten hit by that again?
I think it's a different person.
Yep, different name this time. And apparently can't see our skin tones.
Apparently not. No. But yeah, in that regard, I just, that was the only thing for me. Like, I'm honestly done with the whole CM Punk thing already. I've been done with it for a while, just because of the dirt sheets and the media. Oh, this and this and this and this. Could this be this? Could this be that? I'm just like, guys, I'm done. At this point, I don't care until I see him. Like,
Well,
So-
I was in that boat until actually this week, and this is why. When it was just dirt sheets saying it, I was the same thing. I'll believe it when I see it, right? Until he actually shows up in a ring, I'm not going to believe the dirt sheets.
right.
But this week, Tony
but they-
Khan wrote a check this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if he does not cash that check at the United Center in a few weeks,
It will bury his company.
it will bury his company. Yes. And so he had to be confident because it will ruin the reputation of AEW with the hardcore fans if CM Punk does not show up at that show now. With the amount of hinting they did, it will bury AEW. And so he would not have allowed that much hinting to go into it if he wasn't confident, if he wasn't 100% sure that.
Yeah, but then Darby Allin was saying that he wasn't referring to CM Punk and all
Well,
that.
of course he's doing that because he wants to continue. He's got 2 weeks, 3 weeks of TV to play up before then. Of course he doesn't want to say, "Oh, it's 100% CM Punk that I was referring to." That's just covering his own butt there. That's just trying to tell a storyline. But
All
you
right,
wouldn't
then.
drop that amount of hints, right? And you wouldn't have booked the United Center, the largest indoor arena in America, for 2 weeks prior to you being in Chicago for 3 more shows. You wouldn't have done that if you didn't have the
'Cause that's
ace
not
of
even
spades in
allowed,
your back.
right?
What? All
That's not
out's
even
one
allowed.
of the, that's all out's one of the other 3, right?
Oh, okay.
So he's in Chicago, and then he goes someplace else for 2 weeks, and then he comes back for Dynamite, Rampage, and All Out.
right. Okay.
Right. And so it's important. All Out is not in the United Center. All Out is in what used to be called the Sears Center, which I don't remember what it's called now.
So is that this Tuesday?
No,
Next Tuesday.
the 20th. 20th, so 3 weeks. Okay. Because that's the second of the rampages. This week is the last week that we don't have a rampage.
Okay.
And then next week we will have a rampage, and then it's the following week. The first rampage is in Pittsburgh. So, but that's you wouldn't go and say, "Hey, we have sold out All Out in Chicago on September whatever 5th, I think it is." Anyways, we've sold out All Out. Let's book another show after we have 3 shows already in Chicago. Let's book another show in Chicago 2 weeks prior to that at a larger arena. And let's heavily hint that CM Punk will be there if you weren't going to deliver CM Punk there. Because again, you mentioned it. Yes, Darby Allin has walked back and said, "Oh, I wasn't specifically
Yeah,
referring
but
to
I
him."
don't think he's going to be facing him anyways. I don't see CM Punk facing
I don't
Darby.
think he is.
No.
I think that's why he walked it back. Because CM Punk's not going to come out there and face Darby Allin in his first match. Right?
Right.
It's going to be someone else. But the best in the world.
It's going to be Shane McMahon.
Yeah. Shane O'Mac's going to come out. No. But him dropping that was 100% to sell it because of CM Punk. And then MJF specifically using the same wording that CM Punk did at the beginning of the pipe bomb at Chris Jericho at the end.
Right.
Those things were accidents. Those were planned to sell tickets to this new event that they did here. That's a check that Tony Khan has written now, that if he does not cash the check, this company, everything goes backwards. All of the goodwill that they build up with the wrestling community
Yeah.
goes backwards if they don't build that up. Now, here's who I would not be surprised for Darby Allin to face at that Rampage. I wouldn't be surprised if they move up Daniel Bryan's or Bryan Danielson's debut and have it be Darby versus Bryan Danielson. As a swerve. Oh, Darby said best in the world, and it's not CM Punk, it's Bryan Danielson, who arguably could have argued that he was the best in the world for a large portion of his WWE run. But CM Punk is going to come out, and I 100% believe CM Punk is going to come out and try to jump the line to Kenny Omega. And I believe All Out's going to be CM Punk versus Kenny Omega in the main event.
I still think it should be Jericho. I think it should be Jericho and he intentionally lose down. I think that's gold.
I understand that, and I get that. But I 100% see it being, because that's the thing here. They can now, with the Sears Center, whatever it's called, Legion Center, I don't remember. Anyways, being sold out, they can say the only way if you don't have your tickets already, the only way you get to see CM Punk versus Kenny Omega at All Out is on pay-per-view. And we said before, right now it's about delivering pay-per-view buys, right? They've sold all the tickets they can to the arena. Now it's about driving the people who haven't already bought tickets to buy that pay-per-view. So, and so that's what I see.
Look in your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see?
Eyes, what do you see?
A cult of personality.
Anywho's, but that's all the commendations I have. Anyone else have anything more? No.
I gotta go to bed, La. I'm done.
Okay, well, that's what I was getting at. So now we are going to start to wrap things up for the wrestling booking unit. Make sure to check all of the links in the doobly-doos below for our Patreon, our merch store, our social medias, all of that stuff. Make sure to smash that subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube, or smash the subscribe if you're listening to this on a podcast place or watching it on Facebook or whatever. We'd love to get more people subscribing so that more people get notified when we go live, so that more people are here, because we would love to interact more with you. But yeah. We also would love if there was some more people in the comments to just totally
there are
bash
people.
the people who come and spam our comments. It would be super great if there was, half a dozen people there who could see that comment get posted and be like, fuck this guy.
Yep.
And then we wouldn't have to go and ban him, because
there was a quarter of a dozen that said fuck that guy. That saw it.
Mm-hmm. But anywho's, but make sure to hit those likes and share and subscribe. You can follow us on the social media. You can follow me at Raw and Order WBU, just like it says at the bottom of the screen. That's on pretty much any of the social media. So Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and whatever. You can follow DA Fabe at
DA Vincent K. Fabe.
Yeah, right there. And JLB gets to do all of his stuff. You can follow him at
JLB 420. Sorry.
Apologies for that, folks, but you can follow your boy Justin JLB at JLB420 on Twitter. Real Talk Radio, though, is the brand at Real Talk Radio, Real Talk Radio 8, anchor.fm/RTR, and going back to school starting tomorrow, actually in class. So wish me luck. And that is it. Anchor.fm/RTR. It's where you can find all the streamables, all the Spotifys, the iTunes, the Apple Musics, the whatever, the Stitchers, and everything else, all in between, whatever your favorite podcast is. And that is it, guys. Thank you.
But so on that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up, close the book on the wrestling booking unit. Thanks you all for listening and joining us. We will see you soon.
FTR.